Nighttime workers of Reddit, what's the freakiest stuff you've seen on the job? I'm a nurse, so I see a lot of freaky stuff working days at the hospital as well, but I used to work nights. There's a common phenomenon amongst dementia patients called sundowning. A dementia patient can be sweet and innocent all day, but once night falls they do a complete 180 and become agitated and often hostile. Also, more patients die on night shift for some reason. They always seem to want to crash around 3 a.m. My great-grandfather had sundowners. During the day he was perfectly lucid, remembered who people were, even called my grandmother all the time. When the sun went down he thought he was living in a hotel in Boise in 1939. My greatest fear is that I'm not actually doing this right now. I'm reliving 2020 from a rest home somewhere in 2050. Dementia is such a terrible illness, so sad. Well, now that's a fear I didn't know I had. Imagine how much it would suck to have to go through 2020 again. Worked third shift stocking shelves in a grocery store. Every couple of nights, a sweet little old lady would come in to buy vanilla extract to make sugar cookies for her grandkids and the neighbors. A few weeks go by and I'm outside on a smoke break. I see our sweet grandma in her car, chugging vanilla extract. She was drinking it to get drunk and hide her alcoholism from her family. Years after that, I worked in a bar as a karaoke host. There was a hotel next door to the bar where some of the less fortunate people in town stayed. One of the hotel guests was a regular in the bar. This dude, his GF, and I did a shot to celebrate him finding a good job and getting accepted to a trailer park. He goes next door to get a snack and says he'll be right back. 30 minutes later we see flashing lights outside. He got a snack of heroin, passed out in the parking lot next to his car, and had his head run over by another guest pulling into the adjacent parking spot. It bore a similarity to a watermelon at a Gallagher show, post-finale. I'll never unsee that. As I was reading the vanilla comment I thought she's drinking it. Then, you mentioned making cookies for grandkids and neighbors, and I felt bad for being jaded and automatically assuming the worst. Then, I realized why I am the way I am. Oh my God. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry for him and his loved ones. The older we get, the more we see and collect so many sad, awful things. This is true, but we also collect so many wonderful moments. In the sum of things, there's more good than bad for most people. Train inspector here, walking a train in the middle of the night, pitch black, come up to a freight car that had 4 hobos sitting in it, just staring at me. Dudes never said a word, just watched me. I eased by them, and kept going, but couldn't get past the feeling of them behind me for a good while. I knew a guy that was a hobo back in the day. He said it's gotten too dangerous now. Too many drugs and too many people willing to rob or stab you. Back in the day it was a community where everyone helped each other. There were places that were known to allow people to sleep. There was some rich lady that had a guest house where you could go. He even got to be in National Geographic. There was an episode called Love Them Trains, something like that. There is even a hobo convention, but I can't remember where they hold it. Pretty sure it's held daily at the underpass down the road from my place. Are supposed to report them being in the train car or just let it go because that's not part of your job description? The railroad I worked with didn't let guys inspect alone for this reason, because they tend to be violent if you catch them. They always said to just let them be if you see them. Some guys carried handguns on them at work because bums have attacked and beat the crap out of workers. I can imagine it'd be creepy at night. I personally, and as regards to other replies to my original comment, would not really bother them. Unless it was specifically told to me by someone higher in my company, I'd leave them be. But I don't work anything similar to the situation, so I have no room to speak. It's just interesting knowing others' perspective that have been there. I used to work night shift at a hospital, and couriers would be coming and going at all times of the night. One night a courier was approached by a homeless man demanding money, but the homeless guy just started stabbing the courier before he could even respond. The courier tried to offer his wallet, which just so happened to contain around $400, and the attacker didn't even take it. The courier was stabbed around 30 times in his upper chest, neck, arms and hands. He survived and is well, but it just goes to show how unpredictable strangers can be. They probably appreciated you being an easy bull laughing out loud. I worked nights at a dog kennel. During the night, we'd just walk the dogs around the parking lot so they could go to the bathroom. The parking lot was surrounded by a wooded area on most sides. There was a stray cat colony living in the woods behind the parking lot. Every time I'd walk a dog through the parking lot, the cats would sprint away and hide in the woods. They did not like the dogs at all, they were terrified of them. One night I'm walking a dog and I see the cats, but this time they're sprinting out of the woods toward me. All the cats just kind of gather in the middle of the parking lot, completely ignoring the barking dog I had. It definitely freaked me out. What was out in the woods that scared the cats out so much that they came running towards me and a dog they were usually terrified of? It was probably just a few coyotes or something, but it felt really creepy wondering what was scaring the cats so badly just out of view in the woods. Where do you live? Could have been a fisher or something. Those things are relentless and I wouldn't be surprised if the cats would rather deal with the barking dogs. The F's a fisher? Edit. I now know what a fisher is. They're really cute. It's related to weasels/badgers/wolverines, mustelids. Some call them fisher cats, but they're not cats at all. They are really badass, voracious predators. Wow, my first thought was a dude legit fishing. I was so confused. Feel kind of slow now. Like a honey badger? Sort of like a smaller, mainly tree-dwelling honey badger, yeah. Same F you up energy. I've spent a lot of time around wild animals. I've been up close with everything from moose to wolves and bears, and I've never felt any fear towards them. One time when I was in the woods at night, a fisher suddenly jumped and landed on a tree near me. I could just make them out in the moonlight. They growled at me, and I became aware that I was well within their jumping range. I slowly backed away, and began to talk to them in a calm, quiet voice, when in the moonlight I could see their teeth as they opened their mouth and let out the most unearthly sound I've ever heard. A screech that was as grating as nails on a chalkboard, high pitch and yet low and rumbling. It sounded like it came from a monster 1,000 times their size. Every hair on my body stood up and I nearly fell over backwards. It was terrifying. I ran away, as fast as I could. The only time I've truly felt afraid in my life. They may be small, but they're not to be messed with. Quick Google says it's a small carnivorous mammal that's part of the weasel family. Kind of looks like a bear crossed with an otter almost. So, it's cute, but will kill you? Yes, best description of the animal. I just looked up fishers and it looks like alive right on the edge of their range. Another possible suspect. It was probably just Shia LaBeouf. Cats don't know he only eats human flesh. I used to work nights in a hospital setting. At one point, I was taking the city bus to work. There was a lady who got off the bus and left her baby. Her baby. The bus driver pulled the bus over and tried to find her, but it was nighttime and he couldn't find her. He called the police. Before the police got there, the woman came running back, realizing that she had forgotten something. My boss did not believe me when I told her why I was late. Sleep deprivation is a real crafty thing. The baby was sound asleep though. JK, you're totally right. Lol. It's horrific. I don't remember most of 2014 to 2015 after having my baby, who did not sleep through the night until he was 2. I mean, I look back at photos and think, yeah, I kind of vaguely remember that. Pretty sure it contributed to my PND. I had my first baby in May. Luckily, she is a great sleeper, but had a tongue tie and therefore I ended up with milk supply issues, so we needed to wake her every 2 hours for feedings and then I would have to pump for 20 minutes afterwards. The sheer exhaustion and misery I felt that whole time. Hoo boy. It's honestly a blur. But one night she slept 7 hours straight and I was a completely different person that following day. I don't doubt for 1 second that postpartum depression has at least something to do with sleep deprivation. Every time I see someone on the internet talk about having kids, I want kids even less every time. I'm living this now. My 19-month-old son sleeps in 2-hour bursts still, so we barely sleep. And having to try and work, and deal with other illnesses, my body just feels like a sack of moldy onions. Have you had him checked for acid reflux, and subsequently allergies or other causes? My sister didn't sleep properly through the night until she was like 3 because she had acid reflux, and, because it was chronic, it caused ulcers in her esophagus too, which made it worse. Could be nothing, could be something else entirely, But it can't hurt to have the kid checked out if it could help all of you sleep peacefully, right? Your boss is an idiot. No one could make that up. I can now. Not specific to working night shift, but dead people. I work in a nursing home and unfortunately people dying is the name of the game. Sometimes you see people declining so you know they're on their way out, and you do 15-minute checks on them and catch it fairly quickly. Other times people seem fine and they just go and you don't find them for an hour or so between doing rounds. I once spent a long time trying to convince a resident that the angel of death wasn't waiting for him. I sat with him for a while, we shared a hot cocoa, I checked and double-checked his vitals, did all of his cares, held his hand and talked to him about life until he felt better. He was smiling and calm again when I left his room. I finally left his room to wrap up charting and to check in with the nurse. He was gone when I checked in about 30 minutes later. That one hit pretty hard. But I almost guarantee you being there and comforting him made the process 1000% easier on him. He was in skilled nursing care, but I honestly wasn't expecting it at that moment. It broke my heart a little. I'd really enjoyed taking care of him, and he was a delightful man. I'm sure he really enjoyed your company and thought you were a delightful human being as well, Heart. Thank you so much for everything you do. I worked at an all-night diner while I was in college. One night at about 2 a.m, a 4-year-old boy wandered in and said he was there to get some food for him and his little sister because they were hungry. When the manager asked where his parents were, he said they were sleeping at home, and that they slept a lot and yelled at him and his sister to be quiet a lot. Turns out he lived at an apartment complex adjacent to the diner, and the parents were heroin addicts. It was heartbreaking. My mom worked as an aide at a small elementary school and she always said mommy sleeps a lot is child code for mommy does a lot of drugs. So sad. My oldest niece was about 8 when she called 911 one afternoon because mommy won't wake up. Fortunately the overdose wasn't enough to kill my sister-in-law. 2 stints in rehab and she's still clean and keeping her life together. Niece started college this year and I'm hoping she avoids a lot of the choices her mother made. So sad, but glad everyone seems to be doing better. I'm honestly impressed she's still alive sometimes, and proud of how she's got herself together now. Oh man, that is really unfortunate because I can imagine little me saying that about my mom. She's not on drugs, she's just chronically ill and was in really bad shape when I was that age. That is sad, but at least for them they're in a small community, so most people have more of an idea than what the kids just say, parents late picking kids up, or showing up while obviously out of it. Sorry to hear about your mom. Crap, in my case it just meant my mother was depressed and slept all afternoon most days. Basically nocturnal, but I'm pretty sure she didn't do any drugs. Didn't even drink. Lamau, I kind of did this when I was a kid. My mom left me alone in our trailer when I was 8 or so to go to the next town overnight. I had been wanting to have a sleepover with my friend, who lived nearby, but his mom always said no. So, thinking she couldn't possibly refuse a child who's been left alone, I went and knocked and told her my mommy was gone. I don't know where she was, could I stay the night? She calls CPS, they find that my mother was a town over getting high on meth, my brother was sleeping in our truck outside the house she was in, and we got packed back into foster care, man shrugging. I'm not laughing my ass off. I'm really sorry for your pain and suffering. No one should ever have to deal with that, let alone at 8. Good luck the balance of your days. Nah, it was decades ago. I'm great, and honestly that was probably the catalyst that changed all of our lives for the better, mom included. Well, knowing that it helped makes it a lot funnier. Who knew a child wanting to have a sleepover could end up in people finding your mother high on meth? Dang, I was expecting a horror ending but it turned into a tragedy. What a sad world this is. That poor child. To be so little and fending for yourself. I hope he and his sister got into a better situation. What do you mean turns out? Do you know more of what happened to them? Pretty much all I know of it was the manager called the local police to report that this kid came in unattended and the police investigated and discovered the parents to be addicts, this coming from one of the cops who also frequented the diner and told the manager about it, who then told us all about it. From what I understood, The kids were taken to nearby relatives to be cared for, and the parents were arrested for child endangerment and, of course, various narcotics offenses. Going back to the beginning of the story before the cops were called, the manager had the cook make the kid a grilled cheese and another for his sister to take to her, because that's what he said they both wanted. The kid was very happy for those sandwiches, which was both endearing but also very sad. Hell, I'm depressing myself just remembering it all now. Not freaky, but I was sitting on a loading dock at 3 a.m., very dark, smoking a cig. Saw a cat and I tried to get it to come over. It did. It wasn't a cat, it was a raccoon. Still fed it a cracker. I'm jealous. That's sweet, laughing out loud. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.